All right, so we were talking about the brain function and people being able to take in information. Essentially, if people go on long enough without their body being fueled by the BNBBs, it comes a point where the body is using so many resources of the nutrition just to keep the body functioning that they can't learn, they can't take it in anymore. Essentially what's going on in the body is that there's a distribution and redistribution going on all the time. We think of calcium being stored in the bones. Well, if the heart needs calcium to contract and we don't eat it with food or we don't supplement, we don't have enough, where's it going to get it? It's going to draw it from the bones. And when this happens consistently, ultimately people end up with osteoporosis. That's where the bone density is so low. There's a funny phenomenon that goes on in nature where I saw this story about the football players in Florida who took their little fishing dinghy out in the ocean. Long story short, these were all real big guys, and ultimately 3 out of the 4 died. They succumbed to the temperature of the ocean and so forth. But a funny thing that happens with people who are getting hypothermia and drowning is that right before when they're really getting close to dying, if they do have a life vest, they take it off and they just sink into the water. Another similar phenomenon to that is people who are trying to sneak across the border from Mexico. Immigration and border patrol and so on and so forth know that if they find a trail of clothing, they know that they're getting close to someone who's dying. These people who try to sneak across from Mexico, they carry as much water as they can, but ultimately it's a 60-mile trek or something like that. A lot of them run out of water. Even at night, it's too hot. And what they do as they're dying is they start taking off their clothes. So it's kind of weird, they die naked. But the same sort of phenomenon happens in relation to nutrition. The more a person is nutritionally undernourished, the more they don't like the idea of nutrition. And so, kind of a funny test that you can do with your friends, it's not scientific, but you just bring up the idea, you say, hey, oh yeah, this guy was talking about supplements or vitamins, and just be quiet and listen to what they say. If they're in a pretty good state, not necessarily optimal nutrition, but if they're really, kind of okay, they're going to say, oh, tell me more about that. The more nutritionally imbalanced they are, they'll lean toward, oh, I don't believe in that stuff. I don't believe in that stuff. As the body is shutting down, it's going to be focused more on eating what I call sad crap, ice cream, pop, chips, so on and so forth. And because the brain's trying to get a quick fix, it's more focused on, in the moment, fueling the brain up with junk food than it is on long-term health and nutrition. So just because a person doesn't know that their cells require the BNBBs to prevent degeneration of the cells, it doesn't mean that they don't need them. For example, there was a speed skater, an Olympic speed skater, and she trained and she's ready for the Olympics, really top level athlete. And one day she got a little sore. She wakes up in the morning with a sore on her toe. And that sore got worse and worse and worse and wouldn't heal. Now she ate well, as she thought. She didn't take any BNBBs. Long story short, she couldn't get it to heal. She had to stop skating. Ultimately, she started applying what I'm talking about here, and then the body was able to start healing that, and she was able to skate again. Wherever the stress is placed on the body, or wherever the weak link in the hereditary chain is, for example, with my family, it's heart disease, diabetes, and those types of things, that's where it's going to show up first. If it's allowed to go on, many other systems will break down too as the body's distributing. Ultimately, the body's going to try to keep the heart going and the brain going, and every other system is going to start to have problems. So generally people find that they're just not themselves with the BNBBs. Once they have the BNBBs in their body all the time, their mood changes, their relationships change. It really makes a difference. Willpower is a function of the brain that has enough BNBBs. Oftentimes you'll hear people talking about willpower, and that's a function of a brain that is optimally nourished. If it's suboptimal, or it just doesn't have what it really needs, you're going to find them saying they don't have willpower. So we'll pick up on that in the next segment, willpower.